Hello, good afternoon. It's Monica from Life is Art, and this is the Sunday 3:30 p.m. demo at the Harvest of Smiles online crop. I'm so excited. We are well on our way to having a full thermometer on our Smilometer, and so that means an entire surgery for a child to get a cleft palate or lip repaired, and just giving them a whole new lease on life. So that is exciting. Last year we managed to do just over 2 smiles, so we'll see how it goes. But we are going to be creating a layout today, and if you saw the title before you clicked on in, it said color, tear, and stencil. So we're going to be mixing it up with a few things happening on this layout, and we're going to be using some of the pattern paper from the Good Life collection. We're also going to be using some of the Mix In collection. We're also going to be using the Floral Notes stamp set on this layout. And then from our, what used to be called our core catalog, it's now called the Essentials catalog. And this one just launched at the beginning of September as well. We're going to be using one of the 12 by 12 stencils. And we're going to be using that from stencil pack number 2, this one right here. And it's an interesting stencil pack. It has some brick, and it has a clock, and life is measured by moments in time. Then it has a whole bunch of animal patterns and a giraffe and an elephant, all sorts of fun things. And then the bottom one has a bunch of florals and different patterns. So lots of interesting things on those stencils for sure. So that's where we're starting off from today. And I just realized I wanted to pull something out, but we'll see whether we need it before I'm done the layout today. Hey, Joanne, nice to see you're watching. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're going to watch later on replay, you can just say replay. We're going to start out with a plain sheet of white daisy cardstock. And I'm going to adhere it down to my Versamat so it doesn't jiggle and joggle all over the place while I'm creating today. So just putting a little bit of adhesive in the center and sticking it down to the Versamat. There we go. And I'm going to start off today with the stenciling. And so I have here the stencil from Stencil Pack 2 that has all the different animal prints and things on here. And the one that I'm specifically looking to use is this one down in this corner. And I'm just seeing if you can see it. You can kind of see it there in the light from the lights. And it is a sort of an elephant print, like elephant skin. It's a big knobbly stencil, and I kind of like that because I think it'll go well with the photo that I'm going to be putting on this layout. Now this particular layout, it's a 12 by 12, and I'm only using one photo for it, but that's okay. Because it's, again, one of those instances where you can't go back in the past and snag another photo. Hey, Allison. Nice to see you're joining. All right. So for this stencil, I was having trouble deciding between pine and toffee to use with the stencil. And so I think I'm going to do a little bit of both. So we're going to start off with the toffee and then move into the pine. Let me just grab my little mat that I stick down under here. My mommy gave me this. So let's start with the toffee. I've got my blending brush, and I want to kind of envision sort of a circular area over here, kind of like that. And I want to do some stenciling in that circular area to create a circular-ish spot. And so I'm going to come in with the toffee and do some stenciling on this pattern. Now this doesn't have to be overly dark. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. I'm just doing it for some background, pattern, and interest. So I just shifted it there. I should maybe set it down all the way and hold on to it. And when you're doing stenciling like this, if you want your edges to all look even, you're going to want to kind of swirl your brush one direction and then the other and then back and forth. And that kind of gives you a more even look all over. And you can see there that fun elephant skin kind of print that we're creating. So I'm going to come down here so that I can get a little bit of design sort of at the bottom end of my envisioned little circle. Well, big circle. So I'm just going to continue on with the stenciling here all the way around, like so. And I'm not doing this because there's anything to do with elephants in my layout. There's nothing whatsoever to do with elephants in my layout. I just want an interesting way to add color to my layout. And you know what? Sometimes doing an interesting stencil can give you that. So now I'm going to switch to the pine. And I'm trying to decide if I want to, so this is the pine ink, and I'm trying to decide if I want to put the stencil back on where it was or do it in a slightly different spot. I'm thinking probably putting the stencil back where it was is the smart thing to do. That doesn't mean I'll always do the smart thing. But let's try that for now. We'll kind of put it back where it was and just add a little bit of color other than the toffee. And I'm going to do this really lightly and just kind of here and there just to add a little bit of variation like that. That's kind of fun. And then we'll do the same thing down here. I didn't wash my stencil in between, so my blending brush could totally be picking up ink that was on there already with the toffee, but it's all good. I'm going to add a little bit more. This would be great for trying to do it like a turtle shell too, this pattern. I think you could probably do a turtle. You could make like flagstone pathway with this. Lots of different uses for that particular one. So I'm just looking at the stencil to see what else I might want to use, but I think I'm going to leave it there. I'll move that to the side. But I'm thinking that I want to add just a little bit more. So I'm going to bring in another stamp set, which is the Design Elements stamp set. And it's got some fun sort of designs and motifs and things, but then there's also sort of this crackly, barky thing and this dots. So I think I'm going to grab the dots and see what happens. We might do some dots and some crackles. So let's start out with the dots. And I don't even need to use a stamp block for this. I could, but I am going to season it before I start because I haven't used this yet. Don't even know what it's going to look like. But one thing that you can do with a stamp is you can just use your hands to hold your stamp, and that way you get kind of an interesting stamped image. So you can kind of just stamp just wherever your stamp is hitting, and you can do first and second generation, and you can move it around, and it creates quite a lot of texture in comparison to just stamping directly. And let's add a little bit more down here. And down there. Maybe right off the edge. Like so. Now, some of this is going to get covered up. So, you know, it is what it is. And let's have a little bit going over that way as well. That's kind of fun. All right, let me put that down. And then I'm going to bring in that wood crackly stamp from the same set. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to stick it on a block. Do you guys, when you are stamping with stamps, do you ever just stamp it and not have it on the block. Do you ever do that kind of technique? It's super fun. Yes, Joanne, it does definitely look like a flagstone pathway. Yeah. Hey, Michelle. Hello from work. And Deborah's here too. Now, this has been used before, but I could season it. And I'm going to use it in my hands again. This time I've got my Toffee ink. And I'm just going to add a little bit of crackle up there. Like that. And I can even add some crackle over here. I can do first and second generation. And whether it gets all showing or not, it doesn't matter. That's the great thing about mixed media type stuff. You know, whether it ends up being on the layout or whether it gets covered up, it's all kind of fun and good anyway. So let's add a little bit down there. Maybe another little bit like that. And a little smidgen kind of trailing off there. Super fun. We're just playing. Sometimes you got to do that with your inks, do that with your stamps, with your stencils. Play and see where it goes. And if it doesn't go anywhere lovely, then you just start again, right? Take your photo off and try again. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to bring in some pattern papers. And I've got some that I have pulled. This one is from the Mix In collection. And now we're going to go to the tearing portion of the day. And we're going to just start tearing. And I want to make this like a really rough, torn kind of edge. Sometimes when we tear, we try to make it fairly neat. I want that white core to be visible, and I want it to, you know, be nice and rough. I'm going to rough it up. Now, I'm going to save that because I could probably use it for something else. But I want to kind of create that sort of look, which now you're going to see why we want sort of that, you know, little bit distressed stamping and stenciling happening, because that's kind of cool, right? And I'm going to just add some adhesive along the top here. Now, this is always the tricky bit for me, is lining it up with the top of the page when I've got my head way over here. Let's see if we can do it. And kind of, well, it's kind of straight. You know, it's torn, so it can be kind of crooked too, right? And then we're going to bring in a few more pieces of paper. I've got them sitting up here. So this is also from the Mix In. It's a lovely pine, kind of geometric, and I thought it would kind of work well with the, my brain is going out, the stenciling that we did. Again, we're going to tear it roughly. So we're not trying to make a straight line. We're going to give it jiggledy-joggly goodness, like so. All the way across. Again, I'm saving this piece because I may actually use some of those pieces on this layout. So we're not getting rid of them. Gonna go ahead and stick this one down. Now you will notice when I'm sticking these down, I'm putting my adhesive near the straight edge, and I am not putting adhesive on the torn edge. And there is method to my madness, because I may, my brain is stopping again. I may tuck other things under, so I don't want to have that edge hidden. Then from the mix-ins, I'm also bringing in this gorgeous wood grain. Oh my goodness, love this wood grain. And I'm going to tear the edge on this one as well. And let me see, let's start over there and work our way over here. Like this, wandering around, and there we go. And then we can stick this one down. Now, usually when I do layouts, I kind of cut all the pieces of paper ahead of time, and I lay it all out how I want it so that I know exactly what's going to happen. When you do this kind of layout where you're just ripping and tearing, you can't kind of plan where the pieces are going to land, right? It's going to tear where it tears, and that's where it's going to be. Deborah's here, Carol's here, and Gay is here. Awesome. Nice to see you all watching. Okay, so this next piece is from the Good Life collection, and it is this beautiful harbor plaid. I thought it was nice to bring in another plaid, but a different scale, different color. We're getting lots of colors happening here. And again, we're going to do some tearing on this one. Let me see, we're going to start about there. And this time, we're actually going to tear both sides of our paper. So we're going to kind of wander a little bit and go like that. And then maybe we'll wander off to the side like that. And then we're going to tear on this side too. So we're going to start there and do some wandering. And we're tearing this one on both sides because we're kind of, this one's going to be on top of all the other pieces that are going to be added on here. So it needs to have two torn edges. Anything else we put on now is going to get tucked. And so let's add our adhesive, but we're going to aim down the center of this one, and so that if we want to tuck things under, we can. So we're adding this lovely harbor plaid. Now, this one, we kind of want our lines of our plaid to be kind of straight. So I'm going to actually use one of the lines of the plaid is now sitting at 5.5. And I'm going to follow that line all the way across and have it point towards 5.5 so that the pattern is straight, even though the torn lines are a little crookedy. All right. And then for the last piece, we have actually the back side of the wooden piece is this fun toffee geometric shape. And so we're going to go ahead and just tear the one side of this. And some of this might not actually be seen, and some of it might be seen. So it might kind of duck in and out along the length of underneath that blue plaid. Hey, Heather, you missed the demo, but you're here. That's totally fine. We can work with that. So we're just going to tear all the way along like so. And now I'm going to have to be a little bit particular. So I'm going to take a look here and see what happens when I tuck this under. And you got to be careful because all the little edges. Let me see. I have a tool that helps with this. If I can get it. It's in my bin, and my bin is surrounded by all my wires. Let's see. There it is. My crafting tool that helps you lift the edges of your paper. Only it's not doing it today because my paper is stuck down pretty good, even though I left it open. That torn edge doesn't want to lift. There we go. So we're going to tuck this under here and find our way all along like so. And stick it under. Once we get it worked under here, we're probably just going to throw some liquid glue under there to stick it down because we don't want to take it back out to put the adhesive on the back, right? And we're just going to wiggle our way in all the way along using our little lifter to get it under there. Like so. I got to get this end all the way up there. And it doesn't want to go. It's being persnickety. Let's give it a little bit of help. It's because there's adhesive right on that edge. There we go. tuck, tuck, tuck. Like so. It's always the last piece that's the hard one, right? Always. Is it the same with kids? It's always the last one that's the hard one. The middle child is always perfect, right? And then they get ignored. Okay, we just about got it. I need to just get this end to stay up there. Stay. There we go. And so some of this needs to disappear a little more. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Tuck, tuck, tuck. It's like trying to tuck in the hospital corners on a bed, right? You just gotta keep tucking until it's in there. Okay, looking good. We're gonna add some liquid adhesive under this to keep it in place. And I'm actually going to, now that I've manhandled it so much, I'm actually gonna tear this a little bit. Like so. Because I want that edge to kind of disappear up there. So let's add some glue. There we go. And I'm going to use my lifter to help me with this process. Add some little, oh, threw my lifter on the floor. There we go. We'll just keep gluing all the way along. There we go. Excellent. Tuck that under there. Ooh, I love that combination. That's looking good. There we go. I'm going to move my bin because I'm going to be sure to knock it with my elbow. And now I want to add a little bit here and there. So I'm going to take a little bit of this piece here and I'm going to tuck just a little bit of it under here. So let's get some, I lost my lifter on the floor, of course. Let's put the glue on first before we go. Hello, glue. There we go. Get our glue on there. And I'll use my piercing tool. When in doubt, grab another tool. And we're going to wheedle this one under there. Like that. Good thing we put liquid glue on it because we can slide it around. Tuck it under. Just have a tiny little touch of that sticking out like that. That's fun. And then maybe even a little bit of that coming down here or here. Oh, over here. Yes, yes, yes. So we will have that. Actually, you know what? We're going to use the back side of that. Look at that. That nice little grid. Just like that. Tear the edges off. We're adding another pattern. So again, this is from the mix-in papers. I'm so impatient. My glue doesn't want to come down. Come on. That's why I like the rolls of glue, right? Because I'm too impatient. We're going to tuck this little grid under here. See if we can't wiggle that under there. Need the pokey tool. Stick it under. Like so. Get it worked under before the glue dries. That's fun. Just a little bit of that grid sticking out there. I likes it. Okay. Now I want to come in with my photo. And the photo that I'm using is one of my my Grammy when she was on, I think, a senior's bus trip, and they went somewhere where there was a market, and it was obviously in the fall, so there's gorgeous corn stalks and pumpkins and gourds and all sorts of beautiful things happening in there. I like all this green that's happening, and even they had like that indoor-outdoor carpeting, so it's a kind of a vibrant green. So I thought pulling in the green bits in the stenciling and also in the pattern paper was kind of nice. And I thought the elephant sort of skin pattern kind of played up all those roundish shapes that are piled in behind her there. But I also wanted to add a frame to this. So I pulled out something that's retired from my stash, and that is the stitched rectangle frames. So, you know, there's always things in your stash that you like to pull out and use. So I pulled that out and created a Mocha frame for this. And again, that's one of our coordinating colors with the Good Life papers collection. And so I'm going to go ahead and stick down the photo like that. And then we'll add the frame on top. There we go. And I may actually use, because I kind of want this to go on straight, I'm going to use my ruler to give myself an edge. There we go. It's around here somewhere. So I want my photo to kind of be a little above and a little below. So that puts me about 4 1/8. So 4 1/8. And then I can use my straight edge. Actually, I'm going to go a little higher. I'm going to go up to 4 1/2. You know, sometimes you have to change your mind. 4 1/2. Like that. That looks good. And then we can still see some of those papers that are coming down below. And then we can add on this Mocha frame. Time to play with the glue again. So, how's everybody doing? Have you been having fun crafting this weekend? Have you been enjoying the challenges? Sometimes I hem and haw about which ones to pick, and then I'm like, you know, it's just inspiration. So even if somebody doesn't really like the layout or the card, it's inspiration. You can pick something from it that you like, whether it's where things are placed or a color that's in it or something, and then just create your own. It doesn't have to be precisely what is on the inspiration. So let's add that Mocha frame all the way around. Super fun. I like that there's kind of a clean line there with all of the distressed and sort of messy-ish things that are happening in behind. It's nice to have that sort of defined frame. And then I wanted to bring in some of the florals from this Floral Notes stamp set, because the Good Life doesn't really have any florals happening in it. It's not a floral kind of collection. And so I thought these ones were nice because they're very much a fall kind of flower, the sunflowers and the mums and nice leaves. So I've gone ahead and I have stamped out some of the florals, and I've got one here that I haven't done anything to yet. So I'm going to scooch my layout out of the way. Got to be careful where I put it down because there's no, they're sticky on the back. So I'm going to flip it over and put it behind me. No, actually I won't, because that's where the stencil is. I'm going to put it over here. And then I've got this stamped floral from the Floral Notes, and I'm going to show you how to color this up with the new colored pencils that Close to My Heart has. And these are from the Essentials catalog. This particular one is the Bright and Vivid, which is the only one I have so far. So the colors, you'll have to take it with a grain of salt, that these colors are maybe not exactly perfect for the layout, but I'm going to make them work as close as I can, and I'm going to be happy with it. So for this, I want to color my sunflower first. So I'm going to come in with the yellow, and it is called Sunburst Yellow. When you're coloring with pencil crayons, you want to start out with a flat side. So I always like to leave a little bit of scrap on the side of my page, and just to make sure that I have a flat surface on my pencil before I come at my picture, my stamped image. And that helps you just lay down the color without creating any divots in your paper. If you come at paper with a sharpened pencil, like a cardstock paper, you will actually put an indent in the paper. And then what happens is, if you come in with a dark color to do some shading, it's going to get down inside that dent, and that dent might not be where you want that color to go. So it's always best to start out with a flat side. Okay, so we're going to color over that entire sunflower, including the center. Then I'm going to come in with this orange color, and it's called Orange Citrus. Again, I'm going to make sure I have a flat edge. And then I'm just going to color 2/3 of the way up the petals so that there's still some yellow showing, and maybe even 3/4 of the way up the petals. Just laying down some orange, and I'm kind of doing an elongated ovally circle pattern with my pencil, and just adding color all the way around like so. And I'm going to color the whole center as well. I colored the center with the yellow. Now I'm coloring it with the orange. And then the very next thing I'm going to do is going to sound really bizarre, but I'm going to come in with purple. And this is called Rich Purple. Again, make sure I have a flat edge. And I'm going to go over some of the orange, about half of the orange. And when you have yellow and orange and purple together, you're actually creating a kind of brown. So what I'm doing by adding the purple is I'm giving this a tinge of brown, of darkness, which is what you're often going to see on a sunflower. Now, there are actually purple sunflowers, which is kind of cool. But I'm not creating a purple sunflower. I'm just adding it to kind of give it a little bit of brown, because there's no brown in this particular pack of colored pencils. And then I'm going to go over the entire center of the flower as well and darken that up a bit. Like so. Again, just kind of working in little circles. So there we go. Let me lift that up for you. So it doesn't really read as purple, but we added some brown feel to it. Okay? And then for this mum that's over here, I'm thinking I'll start out with my orange and just color over all of that like so. I made sure that I started out with my flat edge. Ooh, I missed a petal of my sunflower. Go back to that in a minute. We'll go all the way around. I'm not coloring individual petals. I'm just going in little circles to add color everywhere. Okay? And then I want to come in with this red, which is fiery red. Sounds like a girl in my house. And I'm going to color over everything with the fiery red. Same kind of deal. The good thing with colored pencils as opposed to markers is you can lay down layers of color. And that is super fun. Now, some people use all sorts of things to blend colored pencils. I kind of like just how they look when they're colored. I don't need to blend things with anything else. And then I'm going to come in with that purple again, making sure I've got my flat side. And I'm going to add some dark to this because I want to kind of darken this up. These are called Bright and Vivid pencil crayons. So if you want to get them a little bit darker, you're going to have to add something that kind of dirties them up. And so the purple is our solution for this particular instance. So we're going to add some of that right on top here. And you can see how that went from a really vibrant orange Like if you look over here, that's a vibrant orange and a vibrant red. And by adding the purple, we've dulled it down, dirtied it up, and made it look like a more of a fall color than a spring summer color. Okay, and then let's come in with the pine green, and we're going to color up the big leaves here, like so. And I'm just kind of giving them an all over color. And you can start out as light or as dark as you want with colored pencils and layer them up. It's actually almost better to start light and then get darker. And I'm actually going to give a little bit more color to that and that. I decided I wanted it darker, so you just go over them again. And we'll work our way along, adding green as we go. We're going to green it up. And this little guy here has a stem. And we'll come back and do those smaller chrysanthemums here in a minute. Just fill these green ones in. Like that. So this is the pine green. There are actually sort of 3 green colors here. There's pine, there's peacock, and fresh green. So we're going to use the fresh green on the smaller leaves because we have 2 different kinds of leaves happening in this floral cluster. And we'll just go around. Of course, I picked the largest cluster to color on camera, you know, as one does. Make you watch me color for a while, but it's fun to see how these new pencils work. And my daughter, I was telling the ladies during Chat and Craft, my daughter uses fancy, professionally Prismacolor, you know, the artsy-fartsy kind of pencil crayons that you can buy individual pencil crayons to get the colors you want and all that jazz. And she tried these and kind of, you know, did her own little comparison. And she said they're good. Now, she did say they're not as good as the Prismacolors for what she does, you know, but these are a better price point than the Prismacolors. And she says, but they get a lot of color down, which is what she loves about the Prismacolors. So she said, you know, they're better than, you know, a Crayola or what have you. So that's good. Good to know from somebody who knows. Okay, then we're going to grab our purple again, and we're going to add a little bit of dark. Everything's going to have a little tinge of purple on it in this particular cluster. So just along the veins of these larger leaves, we're just going to add a little bit of purple to dirty them up and kind of lean them a little closer to the pine color. It's called pine, but it's of it, you know, it's not made by Close to My Heart, so it's, you know, it's not our pine color. All right, now I'm going to go back to these mums that I forgot to do. These 2 little guys that are sticking here. Just give them a quick round of orange. We're going to go through the same layers that we did before. So we're going to do orange and then the fiery red. And then we will add the purple. Make sure I got the side. There we go. To darken them up. Give them that fall look. There we go. And then the little berries, we're going to give them some red. A little nubbin of red. Is there any more? Yes, there are. And then, of course, we're coming in with this purple. Just to dull them. A tiny little touch. Like that. And then let's bring in the fresh green to add a little bit of a different green color to the leaves. So you can definitely see, let me lift that up. You can definitely see there's a big difference between that pine green, pardon me, and the fresh green. Quite a different color. So it adds a nice little different texture on there. So let's go around just those little leaves. And then we are going to add a little bit of pine green to them just along at the base. Would help if I colored in the lines and kind of along that center line. And then of course, as usual, a little snippet of the purple. Because even though we like that fresh color, we want to dirty it up. Now, there was that one leaf, one petal of the sunflower that I completely missed coloring. My eyes kind of get lost in the array of things. Okay, so let's now give this a little trim up. We're going to give it a rough cut first, like so. And then we will fussy cut. Everybody's favorite part of the day, right? The fussy cutting. And we'll just go around. You're gonna see me pivoting my paper doing this. And it's up to you how detailed you get when you fussy cut. I tend to be more detailed. But some people don't want to get that much detail. And I'm going to trim off my excess paper, go around my little sunflower, go around. I tried to stab myself with the scissors a second ago, but it doesn't seem to have done anything. These are pointy. They're called micro tips for a reason. So you do have to be careful with them. And they actually come with a little shield that you keep them in when you're not using them. And that's sort of your cautionary note that these are sharp scissors when they have to come with a shield. All right, so around our fresh green leaves, like so. And then we can start adding our embellishments and things to our layout. All the way around. So who here that's watching is a fan of coloring with colored pencils? Are you a colored pencil kind of colorer? Would you rather do a water brush and ink? Or do you like markers? We're doing an informal survey. Or do you just like stamping on cardstock, colored cardstock, so that you don't have to do any of this in the first place? Let's bring our layout back in and stick it down. Trying to get it straight again. Hopefully we're still in the frame. Seems like we've wandered a little bit. So now we've got our florals that we've colored up, and here's a couple that I colored beforehand so that they were already done, and just kind of finding a nice spot to tuck them so that they make sense on the page. I think I kind of like that. I'll have this one going up there, this one there, and let me see, let's do some foam tape. We haven't done any foam tape. Michelle is a fan of the pencils as well as the others. Yeah, Deborah likes them all too. See, that's kind of the thing, right? You just kind of pick and choose when you're working on a project, I think, most of the time. It's the project kind of determines which one you use. I know I used to not like the markers until I finally tried the tri-blends and the Spectrum Noir tri-blends, and now I like them. I can color with markers. Hooray, who knew? But before that, I struggled coloring with markers. I just could not get what I wanted out of them. Oops, there we go. And, so I think for me, as long as I can get what I want out of them, I'm okay with whatever. So let's just add some more foam tape to this. Give it a little lift. And tuck that in there, kind of like that. So what I was doing with the flowers, trying to get them a little bit dirty, was to try and get them a little closer to the pumpkin color in the photo. So my photo was kind of driving my coloring decisions. And I think I got pretty close. Not, the best. Now, there are 2 other packs of the colored pencils. And there's one that's, what is it called? Nature? I think that's sort of mostly greens, which would be perfect because then I could find the exact green that I wanted because greens are hard. And then there's also like face portrait. I think it's called portrait. I haven't learned them yet. They're brand new. So I'm a little iffy on the lingo for that. Let me just grab my embellishments here, because I think I wanted to try and add in some of the shapes, but I'm not 100% sure that I want to add the wood grain. I do not. It conflicts with the other wood grain that's on there. So let me see. I'm thinking ye old gold sequins are a nice choice. Those are retired now, but we still have them, so we still use them. And let me see what else. Nope, that's too bright. The green dots would be great if I had the pine ones, but I have used them all up because, I like green and I like blue. So maybe we'll just add a couple of the gold sequins here and there. I'm going to actually, before I decide that I'm going to add the gold, I'm going to lay a couple on there and see what I think. Because sometimes you have it in your brain that it would look good, and then you put it on your layout and you're like, nuh-uh. Nuh-uh, that's not doing it for me. So let's see. Let's tuck a few, and you guys can be my eyes in the sky and let me know what you're thinking. So as I add some sequins on here and there, I'm not going to add oodles. Let me know how you're feeling about them. Do you think they're looking okay? We're just kind of tucking them in around the florals, I think. Let me see if I can find some smaller one. I'm not using the really shiny gold ones. I'm using sort of the brushed, bronzied gold ones, so that they're a little bit, a little less shiny. At least that's my story. So how are we doing? Joanne likes whatever works when she's coloring. Yep. Lynette mostly used the Tri-Bond markers, but have the colored pencils. Try out the color. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Sometimes you just got to play with things. You don't know until you try and start messing around with them and see what you like. Yep. I hear that. You just got to play with them. See where it leads you. I find that too with the stencils. I hesitate to use them sometimes. And then finally I try them and I'm like, oh, I'm loving that. Your brain just doesn't know what to make of them at first. There we go. Flip that one. I'm using my pickup tool for this because it makes everything a little easier. And let's see. Maybe we'll add just a couple up there. So, opinion from the eyes in the sky. What are we thinking of the gold sequins? Yay or nay? Yay or nay for the gold sequins? What's the verdict? Before I glue them down. You might not even be able to see them so well because you're way up in the sky. What do you think? Should we add those gold sequins in? I'm thinking they're not looking too bad. It kind of picks up on the yellow a bit, which is nice. So, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? I'm actually thinking I want a little bit more. See, this is where you got to play with things. I want a little bit more pine on here. And I want to use that stamp with the dots again, with the pine. And so I'm going to do it before I put the sequins down, because I want to add a little bit of it up here, like so. And maybe even a little bit down there. I just want just a little bit more of that. Yes, that's all I needed, just a little bit more. Joanne says yay, Deborah says yay, so we're going for sequins. Hooray! Sequins it is. Let's put our little dots. Now we gotta wait for the glue again. Maybe I should switch hands. Run the glue with the left hand. There we go. Sequin. Plop. Oops. Pick up the sequin, then put the glue down. Let's keep with that pattern. Don't put the glue on top of the sequin. Doesn't work so well. I really like this pickup tool for positioning things, because my sausage fingers do not operate well on little items like this. So this pickup tool that just picks them up and then plops them down just makes my life so much easier. And you just sharpen it with a hand sharpener. You don't use an electric sharpener for it. Oops, that one decided to stick to my finger. After I said I couldn't pick it up, then my finger did it anyway. There we go. And a little sequin there. A little one there. And a little one there. There we go. Alrighty. That is our layout completed, except for what is missing from this layout. Da 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 da, a title. And that's because I was having a lot of trouble choosing what to put on here. And so I had looked at the stickers on here. There's family, happy, our story, you are my home, farm to table, gather together, be grateful. And I'm thinking maybe this be grateful, this just that little tiny be grateful, is going to be my title. It seems odd that that little tiny title is my title, but I'm thinking I just want to tuck it on the edge of my photo like this and just have it there like that. Be grateful. And then I can add a little bit of journaling down here, and that is it. That is our completed layout. Now normally I would flip this over, use my rub and remove eraser to take off the adhesive, but those sequins need to dry. So in the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and show you. So we started out with our white cardstock base. I got to not lift it up too high because it changes color when I do. We added on our stenciling with that stencil pack number 2, our elephant skin texture. And then we did some of the crackle stamping and the splatter stamping, and then added in all of our mix-in and Good Life layers torn and tucked and stuck on there. And then we also did some coloring on those Floral Notes clusters, adding those in, and then finally adding a few sequins and a nice little Mocha frame around the photo with a tiny little title, Be Grateful, from the sticker sheet that goes with the Good Life. So I hope you enjoyed seeing this layout come together and feel inspired to color and tear and stencil on your own projects. And I would love to see what you create when you create with those techniques. All right, have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. We will be back on this evening at 7 o'clock for our final chat and craft session. Keep in mind that we're still fundraising for Operation Smile, so if you would like to donate by one of the many methods that we've talked about, then go ahead and do that. The deadline for having your challenges and games completed is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So that's Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And the deadline for having orders placed is 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, Eastern Daylight Time. and because then I'll do the final tally for the fundraising, and also I can do the mystery house draw as well at that time. Okay, so have a wonderful afternoon. We'll see you again soon. Toodaloo. Bye.